I grew up in Albania, a beautiful country in the northwest of Greece that up until 1991 was under a harsh dictatorship. During the regime, investments in science and education were limited, and after the collapse, access to resources and funding was scarce. Despite these limited opportunities, since I was a little boy, I had a genuine interest in science, mathematics, and technology, passion of which my parents supported and nourished continuously. I was always fascinated to pose questions, because I always believed that in science we really have to question whether we actually have found the right answer. It is truly difficult and challenging to know something as big T, truth. While science seems fact-oriented and emotionless to some, I've always found to provide an anchor to navigate the chaos and uncertainty. And this tether for science led me to the pursuit of my medical degree, since medicine is one of the few fields that apply science and statistics in real time to serve humanity. 5 degrees and academic titles later, and I am still enthralled with science and statistics, because I truly believe they have the power to change the world for the better. However, there are certain elements in the science that, well, make it not sciencey. I'm talking about the HU element, the human element. Sometimes researchers, scientists, and others in academia allow their human element to muddy the precise vision that the scientific method provides. And the scientific method is a blueprint, a map, for how to navigate and find the treasure of knowledge. Sometimes the scientific methods and humans can clash because humans can be biased, bullies, and in a word, human. I'm here to illuminate a dirty, dark secret in the science that everyone has known a target of, but rarely spoken about. I'm talking about academic mobbing and bullying. Mobbing occurs when scientists dare to challenge widely accepted beliefs, publish work that is outside the status quo, or question another's data set, but to find themselves bullied. Mobbing happens online, in small and large organizations, in the lab, all over the world. For the science to truly progress and make a difference, we scientists should challenge the status quo and accept new ideas. However, this is not always easy in the scientific community, where all too often we see bullying and intimidation, knowledge turf wars, instead of pursuit of scientific discovery. Before I solve the mobbing problem, which is equivalent to getting a grade school wedgie or a swirly from a bully, let's explore a little more about what mobbing is. According to an article in the European Scientific Journal, mobbing occurs when academics gang up on a publication, researcher, or work to discredit the research because it goes against the status quo. There is much more documented about bullying in the K-12 system than in the higher education or workplace, that, well, you might be surprised that scientists can be bullies. Not all wide lab coats have pleasant banter. Scientists can be vicious and throw down. They wage war with words, not fists. Rather than hitting each other with beakers, they argue each other's validity work in a non-scientific manner, in person or through social media. Everyone in my field has seen it happen. Maybe a young academic runs a study and has novel findings, but it's opposite to the majority of the findings of a more senior, secured, incredibly founded academic. Or maybe a scientist finds out that a medical treatment we have used as a gold standard for many years actually isn't that great. And heaven forbids that a scientist dares to question the results of another's data set. I know this sounds like a nerd WWE SmackDown, but it is real and it happens. And sometimes it can ruin lives. All these examples happen often in my field. And while scientists should be open to critique, new ideas, and fresh perspectives, surprisingly, they don't always. I know, right? People hate being told that their life's work is potentially flawed. Let's do a little experiment. I am a scientist. Humor me. Any one of you thinks one of the greatest scientific minds of the last 100 years. Go.
Einstein.
Hopefully, well, we are on the same wavelength, and one of you thought of Einstein. So get this. Einstein, whom we consider a brilliant scientific mind and the father of modern physics, was the subject of a 1931 book called 100 Authors Against Einstein. I am dead serious. 100 people went out of their ways to reject Einstein's theories. I bet they didn't brag about that publication on their CVs later. While Einstein experienced what I can only imagine as an early form of academic mobbing, you may wonder how many brilliant ideas are laughed at this very moment. And it isn't just Einstein. The British doctor Jon Snow, wait, not the Jon Snow, King of the North, Game of Thrones you are all thinking right now, but the British doctor Jon Snow couldn't convince anyone that cholera, a deadly disease that killed hundreds of people within few days, was coming from contaminated water. Dr. Snow, based on data from analytical epidemiology, tried to convince Londoners that cholera was a waterborne disease and that they shouldn't be drinking water from a contaminated source. Was anyone listening? No. Everyone wrote him off at the beginning, including doctors. I think he was a target of groupthink. He had an idea that wasn't popular, people didn't believe him, and well, he was made for a while to sit alone in the cafeteria table, the loser that nobody wanted to sit with. In modern days, Dr. Jon Snow would be defending his ideas in a social media mob war. But why does mobbing happen in academia when it is made up of professionals who should be above these sort of behaviors? Well, we don't know the exact reasons why, but there could be some contributing factors. One of those could be explained by the Semmelweis reflex. Semmelweis reflex is the tendency to uphold long-held beliefs and reject new ideas that contradict those beliefs, despite having really powerful evidence. Dr. Semmelweis had this outlandish theory that nobody wanted to believe on. The doctors should wash their hands and disinfect instruments between patients. Seriously, the guy who said that maybe we should wash our hands when dealing with patients was ridiculed as a quack and charlatan to the point of his own life being destroyed. People probably thought he was selling snake oil. To imagine how many lives could have been saved through a simple intervention as hand washing, and still people rejected it because it was against the status quo of medical treatments. It is inconceivable, but at the time, it was believed that the disease was transmitted through bad air caused by rodent matter. However, I see researchers and others in academia fall into the Semmelweis reflex all the time because they are not willing to examine new evidence. And the experience is fodder for fiction also. The movie Don't Look Up is a perfect example. The story follows two scientists who, based on scientific data, try to convince the world that an ending catastrophic event is on the horizon. Everyone, including those in power, laughs to the face of their pleas to accept reality. And another reason why mobbing and bullying happens in academia and impedes scientific discovery relate to the human bias. While the human element is necessary for science, it can also add bias to the equation. According to the National Medical Library, all researchers seek to eliminate any sort of bias from their research. However, all scientists make assumptions. And since these philosophical biases cannot be avoided, then they should be debated critically. So the scientific method revolves around the idea that there is no bias in the process. And in the ideal world, it's pure logics and facts. But add few humans, and things can get a little bias fuzzy. Humans and science are not often at odds. In fact, a recent study showed that despite receiving the same starting data set, a group of researchers, each of them came up with different conclusions. They didn't all conclude the same thing. This means that a fixed data set and various human biases can occasionally equal faculty findings. So while we should definitely trust science, it is acceptable to question its truth at any time the human element is present. I don't think we will ever have any scientist that is 100% unbiased, but we can and we should strive to get closer. So now that we know about mobbing, how do we solve the issue? I might not have all the answers, but I will dive into some ways that we can all work together towards an effective solution. First, science is not stagnant. There is no amount of bullying, mobbing, or putting our heads in the sand that will change this fact. Our understanding of the phenomena can change rapidly, so it is critical to revisit what we thought things were compared to what they are. Second, scientists should be open to criticism. And speaking from my personal experience, well, it was constructive criticism that elevated this talk from a simple citing of statistics to a more engaging speech. And third, change the metrics to measure the success in science. To help eliminate mobbing and bullying in academia, and hear me out as this might be a big ask, how about we change the metrics we measure success in science? In the science, the equivalent of a popularity contest is not the one who has the best car or the one who does the most bench press. The Olympic winner in my field, myself included, is the one with the most publications, citations, and grant money. So the power goes to the one with the highest metrics. But better metrics not necessarily means that those in power do better science. So the current metric system we use in science can actually drive bullying and mobbing in academia, so those in power will always stay in power. Defining metrics of a healthy research environment and rewarding and empowering universities and scientists that optimize these metrics could be a way to go forward into the future. So while I conclude my bias lecture on the problem of bias, I would like that we all recognize that in a world of uncertainty as science is, loud and strong voices can rise to the surface and drown out other ideas. My last piece of advice to the field I love so much is to embrace, invest in, and elevate diverse scientists. Teach and embrace uncertainty. By creating a diverse scientific community, we make sure that all viewpoints and perspectives are present. And this would be a big step forward for my beloved field. Science doesn't belong to any one of us. It belongs to all of us. And if it isn't representative of various backgrounds, cultures, and the perspectives of the world it serves, then how it can possibly lead to the pursuit of truth. Thank you, and as we say in my home country, fare in